Hey, Grandma. Want to play Boggle? I couldn't hide my surprise at the unexpected invitation. How many years has it been since I last played Boggle? I only played a few times when my granddaughter, Emily, was still little. Would a high schooler still want to play? Emily is looking at me with a worried expression. When I accepted her invitation, her expression softened a little. After setting up the timer, Emily looked at me. Grandma, I will give you a 1-minute head start. Maybe she was being considerate of my age. And so, our game began. Emily and I tried to find as many words as we can. When there was only little time left, Emily stopped writing. Puzzled, I looked at Emily's face. With a serious look, she began lining up the 4-letter dice. Then, she started pointing at dice, one by one. As if she was trying to tell me something. SOLD. At first, I didn't understand, but when I noticed Emily glancing between the dice and her stepmother, Karen, my blood ran cold. Being sold. After a few days, at around dinner time, the dazzling lights of many signages started to shine. It is the place Emily had secretly told me about in her email. Sorry, Mom. Looks like I can't make it home this year either. I sighed while talking on the phone with my son, Mark. It's been 6 summers already since Mark and my granddaughter, Emily, left this house. How long has it been since I last saw Emily's face? We used to talk over the phone and send emails, but this year even that has started to fade. If everyone's busy, it can't be helped. I tried to sound cheerful, hiding my loneliness. Mark apologized until the end, sounding guilty as he hung up the phone. As I looked around, the house seemed much bigger, even though it was the same as always. I felt like I was sinking into a deep sadness. Before I could drown in that feeling, I got up and started preparing to go shopping. I'm Margaret Williams, 65 years old. I lost my husband early, and my only son, Mark, lives far away with his family. We all used to live together in my house. Mark, his wife Susan, and their daughter Emily, the 4 of us lived together. I shouldn't brag, but we got along well for a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Susan was always smiling, a bright person who could make anyone around her smile too. When we went shopping together, we were so close that people often mistook us for mother and daughter. If it weren't for that tragic accident, we'd still be happily living together as a family of 4. To think she left this world so suddenly, leaving little Emily behind at just 3 years old. Broke my heart. After we lost Susan, our home became as quiet as if we had lost all our light. But I couldn't let Emily feel lonely. Mark and I pushed our sadness aside, determined to make sure Emily would be happy. A few years later, Mark suddenly informed me that he's getting married. He said he met someone from work and they were dating with marriage in mind. The woman knows about Emily, but how did Emily feel about it? At that time, Emily was just 10 years old. She was old enough to understand that her father is getting married again and that her new mother wouldn't be related to her by blood. I thought Emily's feelings were the most important, and if she was against it, I would have asked Mark to call off the wedding. I made my feelings clear, and then Mark brought Karen, his fiancée, home to meet us. Like Susan, Karen was also a bright person. She spoke to Emily and me easily, even though it was our first time meeting. Even shy Emily got caught up in her pace and seemed to enjoy the conversation. After Karen left, I asked Emily what she thought. It would be fun if she becomes my new mom, Emily said with a smile, but I felt a wave of sadness. But if it would make Emily happy, I decided to support Mark's new relationship. Just then, my son got transferred for work, and they had to move to a different city. On the day they moved, Emily spoke to me. Grandma, I'll always keep in touch so you won't feel lonely. Emily, who had always been with me, could see right through my loneliness. But even so, I couldn't let my young granddaughter worry about me. I forced a smile as I saw them off. Living alone was lonelier than I imagined, but thinking of Emily, I tried not to contact her too often. Knowing I wouldn't be able to see both Emily or Mark, memories kept flooding back. But dwelling on memories only made the loneliness worse. I tried my best to conceal my loneliness and just focus on my shopping. On my way back home, I locked eyes with a small kitten. Is it a stray? I assumed its mother was nearby and kept walking, but the kitten followed me, making sounds. You should hurry home too. Your mom is waiting for you. I called back to it as I walked, but it followed me all the way to my front door. In the sweltering heat, the kitten looked up at me with tearful eyes. I couldn't resist that gaze. My days of solitude changed thanks to the unexpected arrival of the kitten. Oddly enough, it didn't try to run away and settled in as if it had always lived here. By the time summer ended and the sound of insects filled the air, I couldn't imagine being without that kitten. Watching its cute little form reminded me of when Emily was still a child. Then, I remembered that I hadn't received a reply to the email I sent a few days ago. Emily and I used to exchange emails and calls regularly until she started high school. Recently, she hasn't been responding as much. I assumed her daily schedule had changed after starting high school, but I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling I had. I tried calling Emily directly, but it just kept ringing. I thought about calling Mark, but I remembered he mentioned in his last call that he was going on a business trip abroad. I didn't want to worry him unnecessarily or make Karen feel awkward by calling their house. What should I do? The kitten reacted to my muttered words. It had been lounging on a cushion by the window, suddenly came to my feet and looked up at me. It looked at me with the same tearful eyes as the day it followed me home. As I gazed into its eyes, it suddenly dawned on me. I should try and check on Emily. The kitten seemed to sense my plan and curled up on the cushion again. The place where my granddaughter lives is about a 2-hour train ride from my place. I tried to calculate what time Emily would be home from school and then I boarded the train. My heart was pounding. What excuse would I make going to their house? Maybe I should just call Karen. I pondered this as I watched the scenery from the train window. I arrived at the nearest station and checked the map on my smartphone. I know where their house is, but I have never actually been there. I felt like going on an adventure as I walked, checking my surroundings. The unfamiliar streets and my unusual actions. Before I knew it, I realized I was enjoying myself. I had come to check on Emily out of worry, but I refocused and finally arrived at their house. I walked past the house then stopped at the nearest corner. I have come all this way, but now I was nervous because there was no place to hide. There weren't many people around, but I couldn't keep walking back and forth in front of the house. As I looked up at the sky, wondering what to do, I heard a familiar voice. I hid myself at a smaller corner and looked in the direction of the voice. It was Karen. Hurry, hurry. Karen seemed to be hurrying along a girl who was walking with her. The girl following Karen is looking down. Both of them walked to the opposite direction where I was hiding. Are they heading to the train station? Keeping my distance, I decided to follow them. It had been a couple of years since I last saw Emily. In my mind, Emily is still a little girl. But I'm sure that the girl with Karen is Emily. Her posture, the way her hair curled, I could see traces of the little girl she used to be. So, she's in high school now. I knew it, but seeing how much my granddaughter had grown made it real. And I realized how much time had passed. Watching them, Karen seems to be in high spirits. In contrast, Emily seems like she is just being dragged around and looks down. It's almost dinner time, where could they be going? Shopping. But their behavior didn't look like it, something feels off. Eventually, they entered the train station gates. I quickly bought a ticket to keep up with them and headed to the platform. But as I was going up the escalator, I heard the sound of the train arriving. I hurried to the top, but the train had just left. I looked around, but I couldn't see them anywhere. I have completely lost sight of them. With nothing else I could do, I decided to just go home. On the ride home, I kept thinking about Emily's grown-up appearance, trying to shake off my uneasy feeling. When I got home, I was so exhausted from the unfamiliar activity that I went to bed without eating. That night, I had a dream. Emily was trying to yell something at me, but I couldn't hear her voice. I tried to call out to her, but no sound came out. I was screaming so hard my throat felt like it would burst, but all that came out was a raspy whisper that didn't reach her. It was painful. When I woke up, the cat was looking at me, concerned. I just had a nightmare. I was drenched in sweat. I quickly changed clothes and sent Emily a message. I'm worried because we haven't been in touch much since you started high school. If anything is troubling you, don't hesitate to tell me. To my surprise, Emily replied quickly. We're all doing well. I want to see you too, but I'll hang in there. If she wants to see me, why doesn't she make the time to visit? Are high schoolers really that busy? As I thought about it, I remembered the sad look on Emily's face yesterday. Emily being led by Karen, looking so down. I couldn't get it out of my mind, so I sent Emily another message. You can come see me anytime. Or are you busy with a part-time job or some after-school activities? I added a question mark at the end to make it easier for her to respond. But Emily didn't reply. From then on, I found myself checking my phone constantly. Just in case Emily replies. But that only made me feel emptier as the same uneventful days went by. I tried checking on her in person a few times, but I never managed to see her. The worry and uneasiness were crushing me. Just then, Mark called me for the first time in a while. Mom, how are you? I finally finished my work and got back from overseas. Forgetting to ask Mark how he was doing, I desperately asked him for a favor. Forget that, you have to come home this year. My urgency seemed to surprise him. What's going on? Did something happen? If I asked him about Emily, I knew he'd tell me everything is fine. Maybe I was just overreacting to how Emily looks like the last time I saw her. But unless I talked to Emily directly, this bad feeling in my chest wouldn't go away. I haven't seen any of you in years. I'm getting lonely. Until now, I had kept my loneliness hidden from everyone. And recently, a new companion had helped ease that loneliness, but I put on a bit of an act, letting my voice sound sadder than I felt. Mom. Mark has always been a straightforward guy. Feeling guilty for leaving his elderly mother alone, he promised to bring everyone home for the New Year's. After the call ended, the kitten came to my feet, rubbing its body against me. Feeling a twinge of guilt, I petted its head. Then New Year's Eve arrived. I waited anxiously for Mark and the others to come home. The food and drinks were all ready. In the evening, Mark, Emily, and Karen arrived at the house. I'm so sorry, Mom. We haven't visited in such a long time. Karen handed me a box of sweets. No, I'm sorry for being so demanding. It's not like we were on bad terms. When we met, conversation flowed naturally. When I saw Emily come in, I almost burst into tears. Back then, I could only see her from a distance, but she had grown into such a beautiful young lady. Just seeing how much she had grown from that 10-year-old girl was enough for me. Grandma, I'm sorry I couldn't reply to your emails. Emily apologized, looking down, and I almost hugged her, but I held back. It's okay. I'm just happy to see you grown up and looking well. I gently pushed her back, urging her to go into the living room. But the moment my hand touched her, Emily flinched. I wondered if I was being too familiar after not seeing her for so long, but Emily didn't seem to notice. Oh. There's a kitten. Emily, come take a look. I heard Karen's voice from the living room, and Emily quickly walked down the hallway. While they were playing with my kitten, I started preparing hot choco. I never thought you'd get a pet, Mom. I remembered how I used to oppose Mark's desire to have a pet. As we chatted, I noticed Emily whispering something to Karen. Reluctantly, Karen handed Emily a phone from her bag. I'm going to run to the convenience store for a bit. Saying that, Emily took the phone and headed outside. We just arrived and she already wants to go out. Karen muttered to herself, loud enough to hear. Well, I guess it's boring for a high schooler to sit around in an old house. I put the cups of hot choco on the living room table, responding in a way that wouldn't make Karen feel awkward. After chatting for a while, Emily returned. Emily, I'll hold on to your phone. You finally get to see Grandma after so long, you should take your time talking with her. I was about to say that wasn't necessary, but Emily handed her phone over to Karen without any resistance. She glanced at me, but when I smiled at her, she quickly looked away. Mark didn't seem to notice anything, laughing at the New Year's TV special. But it felt strange that a mother would take away her high school daughter's phone. I had a suspicion, so I pretended to prepare dinner while checking my own phone. And there it was, a message from Emily. My mom manages my phone, so I don't get to use it much. That's why I couldn't reply. I looked over at Emily. She was sitting next to Mark and Karen, who were laughing at the TV, but she seemed distant. Her expression was so blank, like her soul had been drained by a demon. What could I do for Emily? Maybe managing her phone was part of Karen's parenting style, and I couldn't just interfere out of nowhere. I mulled it over, but in the end, there was nothing I could do as we entered the new year. The next day, Mark and Karen started drinking wine early to celebrate the new year. They were getting tipsy while snacking on the dishes I pre-papered. Amid all this, Emily spoke to me. Hey, Grandma. Want to play Boggle? I couldn't hide my surprise at the unexpected invitation. How many years has it been since I last played Boggle? I only played a few times when Emily was still little. Would a high schooler still want to play? Emily is looking at me with a worried expression. Well, we don't have anything else to do, so let's play together. When I accepted her invitation, her expression softened a little. I think I still have the Boggle set we used to play with. We both laughed when we saw the Boggle box I pulled out from the closet. This brings back memories. After setting up the timer, Emily looked at me. Grandma, I will give you a 1-minute head start. Maybe she was being considerate of my age. But can we enjoy playing it with just the two of us? With all these thoughts in my mind, our word search game began. Emily gave me a 1-minute head start as a handicap. Surprisingly, it was fun once we started. Before the time even finished, Emily already stopped writing. What's wrong? There is still time left. Puzzled, I looked at Emily's face. Emily, with a serious look, began lining up 4-letter dice. Then, she started pointing at each letter dice, one by one. As if she was trying to tell me something. SOLD. At first, I didn't understand, but when I noticed Emily glancing between the dice and Karen, my blood ran cold. Being sold. Could it be? Emily. That can't be possible. That's absolutely unforgivable. But with just Emily's word, I couldn't confront Karen. I whispered to Emily in a low voice. I'll help you, no matter what. It might take some time, but just wait. With tears in her eyes, Emily nodded firmly. A few days later, I lied to Mark. I told him I needed him to take me to the hospital and asked him to take the day off work. He believed me and came to pick me up in his car. Let's go. Mark followed me as I walked instead of getting in his car. Mom, what's going on? Where are we going? I couldn't tell Mark anything until I had proof. It's not that I didn't trust my own son, but I think Emily turned to me because she didn't want to worry him. If my plans for today went well, it would be easier to explain things to Mark afterward. But the shock he might face would be unimaginable. Still, I wanted him, as Emily's real father, to face reality. Besides, I couldn't handle whatever might happen on my own. No matter what, I was going to save Emily. Determined, I continued walking, and my son eventually followed without saying a word, sensing something was wrong. We took several train rides and finally arrived at the nearest station to where their family lives. We transferred to another train and got off a few stops later. It was almost dinner time. The dazzling lights of many signages started to shine bright. It is the place Emily had secretly told me about in her email. What are we doing in a place like this? Mark looked confused. But I hid in the shadows of a building near the ticket gate. Mark quietly followed my lead. Soon, the two familiar figures came out of the gate. What? Karen and Emily. Mark stared at Karen, who was holding Emily's hand, her makeup a bit too heavy. I signaled to Mark, and we followed them. They entered one of the many business establishments in the area. We quickly followed them inside. The elevator they took stopped at the 4th floor. I checked the signs and saw the name of the establishment. Why would she bring Emily to a place like this? Mark seemed to be getting suspicious of Karen. Let's go, Mark. We got into the elevator and pressed the button for the 4th floor. It seems to be an exclusive bar, and a man at the entrance stopped us. Oh, excuse us. But I pretended to be a confused old lady and forced my way in. Sorry. I heard my dad came in here, and I just need to get him out. Mark followed me, slightly brushed off the man. The man, unsure how to handle an old lady like me, looked flustered. I was relieved he wasn't a tough guy as I looked around the dimly lit bar and saw a stage at the back. A young lady in a sexy outfit is posing under a spotlight on the stage. Men in the audience were taking pictures of her. What is this place? Mark muttered. We stood there, stunned, for a while. Hey, you can't just stand there. You need to order something. The server called out to me, snapping me back to reality. Sorry. I'm just looking for my husband, he might be here. Yeah, he's been a bit out of it lately. We'll be out of here soon. As we exchanged these words, the lights and music in the place suddenly changed. When I looked back at the stage, I saw a familiar face stepping out on the stage. When did she change clothes? The girl, now dressed in a sexy nurse uniform, is unmistakably Emily. Cheers erupted from the men in the crowd. Camera flashes lit up the room. Despite it all, her face showed clear signs of discomfort. This is disgusting. I was trembling with anger. Mark was also gritting his teeth. But he couldn't hold back his feelings. Straightening up, I marched onto the stage. I grabbed Emily's hand and headed for the exit. The patrons were stunned by the sudden interruption. Hey! You can't do that. Stop right there. A server tried to physically restrain me. Mark, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. This is clearly an illegal business. Are you employing minors here? The server's face paled. I work with the law. I know a lot of people in the law enforcement department. The hand holding me back let go. This girl is my daughter. You made a spectacle of her. Should I sue everyone here too? His voice echoed through the room. One by one, the men started fleeing the scene. Amidst the chaos, Karen finally emerged from the back of the stage. Well, there goes my side hustle. She spoke like everything's normal, cigarette in hand. She seemed like a completely different person from the lively Karen I know. But there was no time to be intimidated by that. This is not something you should be making a high school student do. I glared at Karen, but she just scoffed at me. It's just a part-time job. There wasn't even a hint of remorse in her voice. Then Emily, who had been trembling in Mark's coat, stood up and shouted. It's not a part-time job. You take all the money. You never gave me a single cent. With tears in her eyes, Emily glared at Karen. What's going on, Karen? He gently put his hand on Emily's shoulder and asked in a calm voice. He seemed unable to believe his wife had exploited his only daughter. It was as if he was desperately seeking some last shred of hope. But Karen crushed any remaining hope that Mark had. Emily is enjoying the attention too, you know. Even from men older than her dad. I felt like my head was about to explode. Just as I was about to grab her, Mark stepped in front of me and confronted his wife. We're getting a divorce. Then he led Emily and me out of the establishment. Karen just watched us leave, smiling, though her expression was slightly twisted. Back at my house, I made my granddaughter some hot milk with plenty of honey. Before I knew it, my pet kitten had curled up next to Emily. The warmth of the hot milk and the kitten seemed to soothe her. Thank you, Grandma. She had been forcing a smile, but soon she broke down and started crying. I hugged her and gently rubbed her back. And so the night passed. A few days later, my son packed up his and Emily's belongings and moved back into my house. Surprisingly, Karen, who had seemed so confident, resisted the divorce. She called our house multiple times, saying things like, "I just made a mistake trying to earn extra money," but she never apologized to Emily. I figured the owner of that place was probably pressuring her. Neither my son nor I paid any attention to her. Eventually, with the help of a lawyer Mark knew, the divorce was finalized. Apparently, Karen had been scouting and getting other girls to that place as well, not just Emily. She was being sued not just by us, but by other girls and their parents for exploiting them into inappropriate work. That's all according to the lawyer. But what concerns me more is the emotional scars Emily had. And since that day, her expressions have become more lively, but I still worry if she's truly okay. One evening, Emily came home from school and brought out the old boggle set. She said she wanted to boggle with me, just like we did back then. I wondered if there was something she wanted to tell me again. We started the timer and again she gave me a 1-minute head start. Then, before the time was up, Emily took 6-letter dice. I followed the dice with my eyes, in order. I-M-O-K-A-Y. When I looked at Emily's face, I saw the same smile she had when she was little. A tear slid down my cheek. My pet kitten, who had been watching us, started to play with the other letter dice. Emily and I were surprised, but we both laughed at the kitten's antics. Since then, whenever something happens, we play boggle. The now-grown cat watches over us from afar as we continue to enjoy our games.